So I think that, I guess, in a way, we already do have that ingrained into us, that voting creates, an end result, regardless of whether it's what you voted for or not. But that would have given us the basic sense of democracy, that you vote for so-and-so and for their ideas. And so I guess in a way we do kind of have that system already in place. It's just like, it's not a prerequisite, but it is an introduction.
Well, that's what the educational system going to school is supposed to teach you. You should be informed by the time you graduate from high school. Of course, we know that the educational system has kind of gone to shit. One fear that I would have in something like that is that it adds another layer, yet another layer of complexity upon a system that is already kind of too complex as it is. The tracking and the voting and how you go about monitoring it, and it would bring up all kinds of questions about fraud, and well, so-and-so didn't vote in their final election prior to, so they didn't have the, shouldn't have had the ability to vote in, the presidential, and I can just see like issues arising out of it, because anytime you add another layer of complexity into a system that is already kind of broken, I don't know, I don't have the answers. It's a novel idea. It's one that I have not, contemplated before, but like I said, I'd have to see how it would actually implement it.
How does money influence voting? Are there ways that you think money has influenced voting, whether it was positively or negatively?
Money plays a key role in voting now. Campaigning, for one, which influences vote in huge numbers. How much money you can throw into a campaign, the more numbers, the better. But I think the epitome of all that, for me anyway, and again, here's my frustration. Can you hear it in my voice? It was the Gore-Bush election, where it was able to be bought. I've read many things that say yay or nay, or that didn't happen, or that did happen, but the fact is money sways votes, and whether you want to put it into campaigning or just the complete landslide of a vote or corrupting a vote, definitely plays a role.
Washington. The Marine Band plays Hail to the Chief for George W. Bush, 43rd President of the United States. But in Florida, some are singing Hail to the Thief. And we want to know if George W. Bush won the election, or did Brother Jeb steal it for him? Our investigation suggests that the answer lies at the Capitol, and in a very expensive contract between Governor Jebb's Division of Elections and a private company named DBT, which accidentally wiped off the voter rolls thousands of Democratic voters. 18th Floor Division of Elections. We've come to ask Mr. Clayton Roberts, the director, a few questions. Roberts agreed to talk, but became a bit uncomfortable when he learned that we had obtained the secret DBT contract, and asked him if he knew what DBT were up to.
No, I didn't ask DBT to do it. They do what we contract them to do. We have a statute that says we have to have a private company to do this. We put it out for bid. They got the bid. And I think I'm done with this interview.
Wait, well, let me just show you the contract, if I could, Mr. Roberts. Wait. It says here, right in the contract, that the verification is supposed to be done by DBT, that you paid them $4 million. Don't you, it could look to other people, don't you think, that you paid $4 million to purchase this election for the Republican Party? 95% wrong on the felon list? Mr. Roberts, could you just please answer the question regarding the contract? Instead, Mr. Roberts called out state troopers. I don't know why I had to call the police. We hadn't gotten to our difficult questions yet. The difficult questions are, did Governor Jeb Bush, his Secretary of State, Katherine Harris, and her Director of Elections, Clayton Roberts, know they had wrongly barred 22,000 black Democrat voters before the elections? After the elections, did they use their powers to prevent the counting of yet another 20,000 votes for Al Gore? This is Database Technologies. This is the company that the state of Florida hired to remove the names of people who committed serious crimes from the voter lists. I've obtained a document from inside this outfit. It's marked confidential and trade secret. It says that the company was paid millions of dollars to make telephone calls to verify that they actually got the right names, but they didn't. There's nothing in the state of Florida files that says that they actually made these telephone calls. So the question remains, why did the Republican leaders of this state pay millions for a list that stopped thousands of innocent Democrats from voting? The first list from DBT included 8,000 names from Texas supplied by George Bush's state officials. They said they were all felons, serious criminals barred from voting. As it turns out, almost none were. Local officials raised a ruckus, and DBT issued a new list naming 58,000 felons. But the one county which went through the whole expensive process of checking the new list name by name found it was still 95% wrong. Because of the way DBT generated the lists, every genuine black felon in the United States could knock out every black voter in Florida with the same surname and similar date of birth. And that's why the NAACP is suing Florida for violating voters' civil rights.
Thank you, Florida.
Altogether, it looks like this cost the Democrats about 22,000 votes in Florida, which George Bush won by only 537 votes.
If you're going to do it, by all means, as a matter of due process, as a matter of fairness, it's got to be done with excruciating care. It's a democracy. The vote counts. There's a lot of public concern that the contractor who was selected to do this is a firm that seems to have ties to the Republican Party.
And they will be putting our evidence to database technologies. Their vice president, James Lee, told Newsnight that manual verification by telephone calls does not mean ringing people up to check they've got the right person. So, were they paid $4 million to produce a list which they knew would name thousands of innocent black people? In fact, DBT told Newsnight that Clayton Roberts and the state of Florida wanted there to be more names than were actually verified as being a convicted felon. So, did they use their powers to prevent the count of 20,000 additional votes for the Democrats? Wacky butterfly ballots caused thousands in this Democrat town to accidentally mess up, and they refused replacement ballots promised them by state law. In all, Palm Beach voting machines misread 27,000 ballots. Jeb Bush's Secretary of State, Katherine Harris, stopped them counting these votes by hand. She did the same to Gadsden, one of Florida's blackest, poorest, and most Democrat counties, where machines failed to count 1 in 8 ballots. Again, Harris stopped the hand count. This alone cost Gore another 700 votes in an election in which Harris declared George Bush winner by only 537 votes.
And in accordance with the laws of the state of Florida, I hereby declare Governor George W. Bush the winner of Florida's 25 electoral votes for the President of the United States.
Harris was a busy woman in charge of Florida's vote count and co-chair of Bush's presidential campaign. In Britain, you count the votes, then announce the winner. In Florida, they declare the winner first, and here we are, still counting the votes. They are carefully going through the 179,855 uncounted ballots that Harris did not want tallied. They'll know the winner next month. Sources tell Newsnight Gore's ahead by 20,000 votes. One Democrat whispered they would have done the same as Katherine Harris if they had the chance. State officials point the finger at the counties and say it's their responsibility to check if the names on the list are real felons before disqualifying them. Clayton Roberts says his job is just to pass on the list. Roberts now admits he didn't bother to check with DBT if innocent people were on it.
Please turn off that camera.
Off camera, he said, we did not call and say, did you check the list again? The whole tenor of this is like, okay, you screwed up. You didn't check with DBT, and if you want to hang this on me, that's fine. It's certainly fine for George W. Bush. Even if investigators conclude that Jeb Bush and the Republicans conspired to steal this election, the man in that house for the next 4 years will be George W. Bush.
Well, yeah, advertising definitely gets certain attention of voters, of the people. And then, of course, then there's the long term, where if a representative is in office and certain corporations fatten their pockets on their campaign trail, well, guess what? They're going to have to vote or be persuaded to vote towards those corporations' ideas.